Good afternoon, friends. So, yesterday I told you about the freedom, and again I'm revising you with you. So, freedom is also about expanding the ability. So, freedom is all about to expanding the ability or to express freely here on the screen. Yeah, here. To people to freely express themselves and develop their potential means कि फ्रीडम एक सबसे पहले है कि फ्रीडम है कि आजादी you're free, that is freedom, absolutely free. You can express yourself, right? And you can develop your potentiality. अंदर आपकी जो खूबियां हैं उसको आप डेवलप कर सको कोई कंस्ट्रेंट्स के बिना, कोई लिमिटेशन के बिना. Freedom in this sense is the condition in which people can develop their creativity and capabilities. या इस कैपेबिलिटी तक कल मैंने आपको पढ़ाया था. तो आप अपने अंदर से जितनी भी कैपेबिलिटीज हैं, जितने भी आपके प्लस पॉइंट्स हैं, you have to tell these plus points to the world, to the society, that look, I can develop myself, as well as you can also develop yourself. I can develop my capabilities. You can develop your capabilities. You can express myself freely. You can also express yourself freely. That is freedom. Okay. Now, in which today, I think again, I am telling you today another aspect that is one aspect of freedom is Swaraj. This was during the British era. This was during the British era. Then one was Swaraj. A concept of analog. Analogous means information. Here, please have some pencil or pen along with you, and you can mark it into your book also. Analog means some information, some vital information, some important information. A concept analog to freedom in Indian political thought is Swaraj. And this Swaraj means there are two words. Swa means khud, apne aap mein. Swa means self. Raj means rule. So the term Swaraj incorporate with two words. Swa, that is self, and Raj is rule. It can be understood to mean both the rule of self, rule over self rule, अपना राज्य. That is a part of freedom. हम क्या पहले during the British era, what you said, we need Swaraj. हमें क्या चाहिए? Swaraj. Swa मतलब खुद, Raj means rule. Swaraj. In context of freedom struggle in India, refer to freedom as a constitutional and political demand. It was a demand, constitutional as well as political. Samvidhan, constitution means in Hindi we call it Samvidhan. Samvidhan ki taraf se, we said we need Swaraj. Because this is India is that India belongs to us. We belongs to India. So we have to rule on us. No other foreign dignitaries, foreign countries. Political demand, and it was a political demand also, right? And as a value at the social collective level. That is why Swaraj such as important rallying cry in freedom movement, inspiring Tilak as is one's famous statement, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. So बाल गंगाधर तिलक, लोकमान्य बाल गंगाधर तिलक ने एक फ्रीडम क्राई दिया था, एक स्लोगन दिया था. क्या? कि स्वराज मेरा जन्म सिद्ध अधिकार है, आप इसे छीन नहीं सकते हो. ब्रिटिशर्स को कहा था. एंड आई शैल हैव इट, मैं इसे पाकर रहूंगा. I shall means that he cannot do it that time only, but in the future he will have it. I shall have it, and I shall have it. मैं इसे पाकर रहूंगा. It is the understanding of Swaraj as rule over the self that has highlighted by Gandhi in his words, Hind Swaraj, he states, it is a Swaraj where we learned to rule ourselves. In his book, his Hind Swaraj, तो उन्होंने मिस्टर गांधी ने लिखा था कि स्वराज जो है बेसिकली ये क्या बताती है हम वी हैव टू लर्न व्हाट टू लर्न टू रूल आवरसेल्फ अपने आप पर रूल करने के हम योग्य होने पहले फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू शुड बी एबल टू रूल योरसेल्फ आप योग्य तो बनो तो हमें किसके योग्य बनाना पड़ेगा स्वराज के हमें क्या बनाएगा वी विल बी एबल टू रूल आवरसेल्फ स्वराज इज नॉट जस्ट अ फ्रीडम बट लिबरेशन इन redeeming one's self-respect, self-responsibility. You should know about what is your duty. What do you mean by self-respect? If you are unable to respect yourself, let me tell you one thing. If you are unable to respect yourself, you cannot respect others. You cannot respect. अपने आप की इज्जत करना सीखो पहले. खुद अपने आप की इज्जत करना है. खुद अपनी ड्यूटीज को पहचानना है कि मेरी these are my duties, right? These are my capabilities, these are my capacities, these are my responsibilities. Then only you can tell the other people, others, that what is their responsibility, what is their capability, how they can enhance themselves, right? So this is the thing of self realization. So these all things are coming into Swaraj. From institution of documentation, understanding the real self, understanding the real self. अपने आप को जानना बहुत जरूरी है. Friends, you have to know yourself. You have to know your capabilities. Right? You have to know your responsibilities. You have to know your duties. Then only you can go for self-realization, self-rule. And his relation to the communities and society is critical to the project of attaining Swaraj. Then only you can attain Swaraj. When you know your duties, when you know your capabilities, you know your capacities, you know your responsibilities. These are the points towards Swaraj. Last part is Gandhi believed that development that follows would liberate both individual and collective potentialities guided by the principle of justice. न्याय न्याय संगत होकर लड़ाई को लड़ना है स्वराज को न्याय संगत से पाना है he said I mean because Mr. Gandhi was at the time he wants that non-violence should be there no violence that is a separate issue that you believe in violence or you believe in non-violence, you believe his theory or his you don't believe his theory, that is a separate issue. But Gandhi said that non-violence is it's a fact. Sometimes every time you cannot do violence, then society will be a chaos. To some extent, he was correct. Gandhi was correct that non-violence is the best method to shun violence. Okay. So, Gandhi believed that development that follows would liberate both individual and collective potentialities guided by the principle of justice. If you follow the principle of justice, you will be able to liberate yourself. You will be able to free yourself from the clutches or from the yoke of the from the yoke of the Britishers. From the yoke of the Britishers. You were you were behaving like a slave. We were all behaving like a slave during the colonization. We were all slave. Whatever our masters used to say, we have to do the same thing. We cannot think about ourselves that what we need, what we want, what is our capacity, what is our responsibility, what are their duties towards our motherland. Whatever they used to say, these colonist people, we have to follow their rule and regulation. But what Gandhi said, that collective responsibility should be there, collective potentiality should be there, and these should be guided by the justice, principle of justice. Needless to say, such an understanding is as relevant to the 21st century as it was Gandhi's wrote that Hind Swaraj in 1999. It means he said that this is still acceptable. His theory is still acceptable. His theory of non-violence is still acceptable in the 21st century. Right. In the 21st century, this non-violence is much more acceptable. Now, next, both these aspects of freedom, the absence of now I gave you Swaraj, I detailed you about Swaraj, given slogan, was slogan or freedom slogan given by Mr. Gandhi. Swaraj means Apna Raj, Swayam Ka Raj, from the Britishers. You know what Swaraj require? First, should know your capabilities, you should know your capacities, you should know your responsibilities, you should know your duties. Many things are there. Then only you can think about Swaraj, अपने ऊपर राज या अपना राज खुद चलाना. I hope you are able to understand. Both these aspects of freedom, the absence of external constraint, as the existence of conditional conditions in which people can develop their talents, and important, a free society would be one which enables all its members to develop their potential with the fulfillment of for the minimum social constraints. मतलब कि एक ऐसी सोसाइटी चाहिए हमको जिसमें मिनिमम लिमिटेशंस हो, मिनिमम लिमिटेशंस हो, मिनिमम बाउंड्रीज हो, right? And there should be your potentiality should be maximum. To enhance your potentiality, to enhance your capability, should be at the maximum. So both these aspects of freedom, the absence of external constraints, as well as its existence of conditional, why people what people can develop their talents and importance. A free society would be one which enables all its members to develop their potential. A free society किसको कहेंगे? जहां पर आप अपने आप को डेवलप कर सके, आप अपनी पोटेंशियलिटी को डेवलप कर सके. दैट इज अ फ्री मीन्स लेस ऑफ कंस्ट्रेंट्स, लेस ऑफ लिमिटेशंस. दैट इज फ्रीडम. जितना कम हो सके उतना आपके पास लिमिटेशंस होनी चाहिए, जितना कम हो सके कंस्ट्रेंट्स होनी चाहिए. No individual living in society can hope to enjoy total absence of kind of constraints or restrictions. No individual living in society can hope to enjoy the total absence of any kind of constraints or restrictions. पहले इसको समझते. कोई भी सोसाइटी के अंदर बिना लिमिटेशन के जिंदा नहीं रह सकता. It means there are some type of constraints. रुकावटें. You cannot say that others' house is your house. लिमिटेशन आ गई ना, दूसरों के घर को तुम अपना घर नहीं कह सकते हो, अपने घर को ही तुम अपना घर कहोगे. Yes, limitations. Society makes you makes your limitations so that you can develop your personality, enhance your personality, तो अपने आप को develop कर सको, right? तो सोसाइटी खुद अपने लिए constraints बनाती है, सोसाइटी खुद अपने लिए लिमिटेशन को डेवलप करती है. Why? So that we all people living in the society can enhance towards the betterment of ours, betterment of other people, and betterment of society. So it becomes necessary. Constraints are very much necessary, right? To determine which social constraints are justified. कौन से social constraints justified है and which are not, और कौन से नहीं है, and they are acceptable which should be, and those जो acceptable नहीं है, कुछ ऐसी रुकावटें जो सोसाइटी में हैं पर वो acceptable नहीं है, उनको हटा देना चाहिए. Those should be removed. Yeah, those. Wait for a few seconds. Some problem is there. Yeah. So I told you about Swaraj, and now we will let you, no individuals. I told you that no individual can live in the society without any constraints. No individual live in the society can hope to enjoy total absence of kind of constraints or restriction. It becomes necessary that to determine which social constraints are justified. So, which social constraints are justified, we have to know this. कौन से constraints जो है हमारी society में justified है, right? So to understand which society constraints are necessary, discussions on freedom need to look at the core relationship between the individual and the society or group or state, which he's that is we need to examine the relationship between individual and society. Look, there's a lot of things that how we are able to judge that what we are, what is our importance. So we have to look between the relationship between the individual and society. That is why we need to examine to see the features of the society to allow the individual to the freedom of choose to decide or act and which do not. कौन सी constraints हमको चाहिए, कौन से limitations हमको चाहिए, कौन सी नहीं चाहिए. We would need to determine which features and desirable and which features are not. कौन से features desirable हैं, कौन से features desirable नहीं है. Further, we need to see if the principle which we use to differentiate necessary from the unnecessary constraints. देखिए हम अब पढ़ रहे हैं constraints. Constraint का मतलब I told you limitation. किसी भी सोसाइटी के अंदर बिना लिमिटेशन के हम रह नहीं सकते. Limitations for the development. There's a one word sentence in this in English. That is, in excess everything is bad. So if say that lot of constraints are there, in excess constraints are there, that is also bad. If say that lot of freedom is there, lot of in excess freedom is given to you by the society, that is also bad. Everything should be limit. Thus far, we have to define freedom as the absence of constraint. तो फ्रीडम क्या है, हम क्या डिफाइन करते हैं फ्रीडम को, एब्सेंस ऑफ कंसेंट, कोई भी एब्सेंस नहीं होनी चाहिए. फॉर एग्जांपल, ओके, आपने देखा होगा कि टेररिज्म जो है इन जम्मू एंड कश्मीर, आर्टिकल 360 को हटा दिया गया, राइट. सो व्हाट दे यूज्ड टू से, एंड इन द जेएनयू आल्सो इट हैपेंड, हमको क्या चाहिए, आजादी. किस देश से, भारत देश से आजादी. आज मांगे ये आजादी, कल मांगे वो आजादी. It means they want that India should be divided in many parts. It cannot be possible. Is it possible कि पंजाब अलग हो जाए, हरियाणा अलग हो जाए, जम्मू कश्मीर अलग हो जाए, राजस्थान अलग हो जाए, and 29 state and 7 new territories अलग हो जाए, and as नए countries बन जाए, as it happened to 15 new countries in Russia, in USSR. Can it be possible in India? No. Why it is not possible? Because you are given the choice of freedom. आपके पास freedom है. आपके पास self expression का freedom है. You can express yourself. Right. So when you are able to express yourself, the freedom is given to you, and beyond this, that will be in excess. बहुत ज्यादा freedom there is harmful. That is harmful one. Thus, we have defined freedom as the absence of constraint. To be free means to reduce, minimize social constraints. Minimize social constraints that limit our ability to make choices freely. However, there's only one aspect of freedom. To put in another way, freedom also has a positive dimension. Freedom के पास एक positive dimension है. To be free, society must widen the area. Right? Free society must be widen the area in which individual groups, communities, or nations will be able to charter their own destiny. तो freedom क्या हुआ कि आप अपनी destiny को देख सकें, आप अपनी destiny को देख सकें, बदल सकें. You should know about your destiny, and freedom in this sense allows the full development of the individual creativity, sensibility, and capabilities. But it is in sports, science, art, music, exploration. In any part, you can develop yourself. When there is a less of constraints, you can develop yourself. You can develop your capabilities. You can enhance your positivity. So this is freedom. And if constraints are there, and limitations are there, they are also to develop yourself. Right? When you say now elections are going to come, I'm giving you some example. Now elections are going to come. Right? And there are some rule and regulation during the elections. It's India is a democratic country. You have lot of rights in your hand, lot of rights. Rest of duties, तो इंडिया में बहुत कम है. Lot of rights are there, fundamental rights. We know all we are having fundamental rights. But do we know that we have some fundamental duties also towards our country? We abuse our country. We abuse our government. We abuse sometimes, sometimes we abuse the national anthem, national flag. So these are all our constraints that you cannot do it. So you have to develop in between the constraints. We have to develop in between the limitations. So these all type of limitation and constraints are for enhancing our personality, enhancing our living in our country. Right? So here today we have done all again our freedom. Again, we talk about freedom, we talk about constraints also, we talk about limitations also. Tomorrow again, we will be continuing the same chapter because the same chapter is a little bit much more lengthier. And we have got negative theory also. We have got harm principle also in the same chapter. Right? So be with your book all the time. Whenever you have got the free time, you should be with your book, and you should think about the chapter we have done it. Right? Till then, take care and have a nice time.